Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Career Corner podcast. I'm your host, Malcolm Alexander, and I am super excited to be joined by Ethan Kantor and Cisco Muriel of Streets of Advice. Thank you so much for being here today, guys.
Of course,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Thank you
It's
for
an
having
honor.
us.
Yeah, this is very exciting. Doing a little bit of a switch here, putting the interviewers as in the interviewee seat, which is exciting. And we'll be listening to a little bit of your interviews here in a second. But first, I'd just love to hear from both of you sort of how did this idea come about? What inspired Streets of Advice? Where did this idea come from?
Honestly, we're sitting on our couch one day. We were like, we're about to graduate college. We needed something to show about kind of how we navigated our path. And we like to share about alumni and professors, how a little bit how they navigate into their paths today. Cisco, I don't know if you want to add a little bit something about that, but
I mean, that's exactly what happened. We were sitting on our couch and we were like, dude, we're gonna graduate. Like we felt like we were lost. We didn't know what we wanted to do after college, and we know a lot of our peers are in somewhat in the same position. So we actually wanted to interview Cato, right? One of the professors here at in the business school, and we just wanted to like share all the insights and advice to the rest of our peers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think totally. I'm a senior myself, and so I feel that same pressure. I think pretty much every senior, even if they've got something lined up, is having a lot of big, deep questions about what am I going to do with my life? What do I want to do with my life? Am I going to
100%.
find a job? Anything
It's a
like that.
scary thought.
Yeah, it's terrifying. So I think it's really great the work that you guys are doing to sort of try and provide some peace of mind from those here at IC who actually have experience and understand that kind of thing. Obviously, that's sort of what we're trying to do with our podcast here as well, provide a little bit of nonlinear guidance towards the career paths. So would you guys say that you feel that sort of pressure to either make connections or try really hard to find a job immediately after graduating? Are you guys feeling that?
So I feel like right when I graduate college, I would like to have a position already acquired. But like the job market right now is so difficult that honestly it's really hard. So I'm a business administration major with a concentration in management, looking to get into finance, consulting, or sales. And if you don't have an internship in a certain company, it's really hard to get a full-time position. I was working as a settlement paralegal last summer, thinking I was going to become an attorney. You quickly pivot, realizing $200,000 is not feasible, and 3 years of law school is not ideal. So you quickly have to pivot to things that you're really doing on a daily basis, and that's a lot of my business classes. So for me, I really would like a job, but I think the best what I'm doing right now to best acquire a job is networking. I always say your network is your net worth. So reaching out to alumni and professionals in different industries and just hearing a little bit how they navigated into their past, learning from their experiences, successes, and failures is doing me a lot of justice right now for the job search for sure. And Cisco,
Absolutely. I mean, I learned it from you. Me and Ethan would just sit down sometimes for, 30 minutes and go on LinkedIn and just connect with people, reach out, especially to our alumni. Our alumni network is we should utilize that and take advantage of that because I myself, if I had a student reach out to me that went to Ithaca, I would love to help them. So me and Ethan would just send emails out, connect with people, and just putting yourself out there. And there's another reason why we started this to put ourselves out there and get some recognition and see one lines up.
100%. I love that you mentioned using the alumni network. That's obviously so robust at IC. And yeah, alumni love to help out students or at the very least talk to you and try and connect you to other people. I'm curious to hear a little bit about y'all's interviewing process. How do you come up with the questions that you ask when you sit down with these people?
if you want, so it's really based off who we're speaking to. So if we're speaking to somebody in the finance world like Mark Weinberg, we're going to really try to talk about the financial markets and understanding a little bit about that. If we're talking about somebody, maybe Brad Treat, who does entrepreneurship, who really talks about businesses and business insides and outsides, and we just try to base the questions off who we're really speaking to. But it first started with was one question: was what is your favorite quote? And the second was, what would be the best piece of advice for somebody in like our shoes who's 21 about to graduate? I don't know, Cisco, if you want to say a little bit of how else we kind of discuss these questions, but it's really just based off who we're interviewing for the most part. So
Yeah, no, 100%. I think one thing that we do very well with all of our interviews is we just try to have a conversation, right? We want to learn about them and their path and what are some changes that they did throughout their career that made them be in the position that they're in right now. So I feel like what is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self or somebody like us who's going to graduate soon is a perfect question to get into their career path and what they did, and all that.
It's kind of cool, Malcolm. We've all these professors have all went down a long path of either thinking they were a professor, thinking they didn't want to become a professor, or maybe even in a whole different industry, and they all went to college, they all went down different paths, but eventually in the long run they all come back together. And it's really cool to hear all the different perspectives and different stories from people that succeeded and failed, and either running a business or tried running a business or made a movie or wrote a book, and now they're all professors teaching students and the future generation. And it shows how a lot of these people are just really trying to help the students and help the future generation. So
I agree. I just want to say something based off that. One thing that I've learned a lot throughout all these interviews is none of these, what would you say, like 99%, they didn't know that they were going to be professors. So that made me think, because I say that I want to be a financial manager, and you never know what they're going to be. They didn't know they were going to be professors when they were my age. So I guess that made me have a broader look on my career aspect. That makes sense.
100%.
Absolutely. That actually brings me perfectly to the first clip from Streets of Advice that I'd like to pull up and discuss.
There we go.
Alrighty, so you guys can see my screen here?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Alrighty, cool. So I'm just going to play the first question that you guys have here, and then I'll turn it over to you guys to sort of tell us a little bit about who you're speaking with and what this process was like.
Do you mind if we could do a quick interview for a second?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
What's going on, Bombers?
I'm Ethan Kantor,
I'm Cisco Muriel.
and today we're here from Streets of Advice. We have the pleasure of speaking to.
I'm Michael Johnson Kramer. I'm the Dean of the Business School.
So to start off, our first question for you today is, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self, or somebody like us who's going to graduate this semester?
I graduated from college in the early 1990s into what at the time was a pretty big recession. So in a lot of ways, I actually see the uncertainties that you're all dealing with, and it feels familiar to me. And so my advice to my younger self would be just keep pivoting. Figure out what you're doing. Don't have really long-term expectations. Realize that you're going to learn from each position that you have, and just be ready for that sort of serial entrepreneurship that actually is what becomes a career. I think my younger self was probably living in a time where everybody was thinking, oh, you're going to get this job and you're going to stay at the job for 30 years and you're going to retire. And what we've seen happen over the last, decades is that everyone, even if you spend your entire career in two different companies, you're basically a serial entrepreneur. So start building that skill set now.
I think that.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I'd love to hear from both of you guys about sort of what that experience was like. I think that advice is exactly what we were just talking about, the idea of pivoting. I think that could be applied super broadly. I know this is sort of a specific business geared interview, but I totally think that advice is applicable. So I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, it was an honor speaking to the dean of the business school. We're both majors in business, so it's cool to see somebody who really runs the show over here. What I will say was very interesting is when he brought up the recession in the 90s, that's when he graduated and was looking into the job market. And he said it was really difficult then. So he really understands the pressure that we're in right now. And, we all feel something on our back to get a job after college and make sure you have good money and you're in the right location and you're happy, He made it really clear that you need to relax. You need to understand that time does time and you can't rush things. Otherwise, it will never become successful. You need to just let it play off. You need to work towards your goals, and eventually it's all going to play the part and it's going to come together. And he made that pretty clear for us, and it made me and Cisco feel more comfortable with what you're going to do after. If you want to touch a little bit on that.
Absolutely. This was one of my favorite interviews that we've done, actually. I mean, this was also one of the biggest ones. This was, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was before we did the President Lejeune. So this was big. This was also our first time doing an interview together. So that was really fun. Usually we alternate and we do one-on-ones, but like Ethan said, like he graduated at a very crucial time during the 2008 recession, and I guess hearing him speak about this gave me a little more ease of mind because, hey, if he's in a position that he's in during the time of the recession, I think I'll be okay. So this was definitely one of my favorite ones.
I mean, he's clearly done well for himself, so it's more, it makes you feel comfortable, you know. You gotta, it's makes you feel a little bit better. So
100%. I feel like a lot of days you hear people kind of panicking about the job market, saying, "Oh my God, it's so terrible, it's so
mhm.
terrible." And so definitely to have some insight from someone who's sort of been around the block and knows you're gonna be all right, it'll come back. Like things will be, you will manage, you will find your way through it.
We will. It's not always linear. He made that very clear. It's not always linear. You know, it's gonna go up, it's gonna go down, but it might stay the same. But eventually, you're gonna reach to the point where you want to go, and you'll be a happy guy when you get there. So
You learn.
Totally. Cisco, I'm glad that you brought up your interview with the president of IC because that was another clip that I wanted to turn to, as this is obviously a pretty big moment to get to interview the president of our institution. So I'll play a little bit of this, and then yeah, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
How's it going,
Bombers, I'm Ethan Kantor,
and I'm Cisco Muriel.
and we're here with Streets of Advice, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with
Dr. LaJourne Terry Cornish, the 10th president of Ithaca College.
Thank you so much for having the opportunity to get to interview you and so you can share some insight and knowledge for everybody watching. So one of the things I want to start out with are two simple main questions. What is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self or somebody like us who's going to graduate?
That over the course of your professional life, you are going to have many jobs. Some that you like, some that you don't like. You may even lose a job, but it's a learning opportunity. I need you to trust the education you received. Trust that grounding in the liberal arts. Trust that you know how to think critically, creatively, analytically, and know that everything is going to be okay.
That is great. Can you elaborate like how you utilize that within your work, or like how you got to where you are today?
Sure. When I think about the course of my career, I began as a sixth grade English teacher in the Baltimore City Public Schools.
Came a long way.
I know that I would end up becoming the president of a college. And so I taught English. I left that job and started working with at-risk youth for a while. And I became an assistant principal. And then I started all over again. I became an instructor at the college level while I was working on my PhD. And so that led to me becoming an instructor, an assistant professor, an associate professor, an associate provost for undergraduate studies, a provost, and then a president.
Yes.
Think about all of those jobs that I just listed, okay? It's about being adaptable, nimble, but also being willing to learn and being willing to admit when you don't know something.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. So great advice coming from the president there. What was it like
100%.
to get to sit down with President Cornish?
It was an honor. It was an absolute honor for her to be in our presence. You know, we always hear about her and we're always talking about her, but, you know, we never get to be able to sit down with her and have a coffee and sit in her couch in her office and really get to know a little bit about herself and what she likes to do. You know, she's a president of the school and that's really all we know, but we don't know like who she really is as a person. So it was really cool to see how she transformed through her ladder. You know, she really demonstrated the importance of progressing through the corporate ladder, and that was really cool to see. And how like she learned how to navigate challenges along the way, and her experience showed that persistence is key, and that every obstacle can be turned into a valuable learning lesson. And you know, there's a lot of opportunities that come with that, and that was it was a very interesting thing to say. You know, she said that you need to be nimble and willing to learn, and it's very true. You know, you need to be you need to have let the opportunities come to you, but you also need to be willing to go out there and get them yourself. So.
Absolutely. Ethan, you said that very, very well. That's one of the things that I've learned from her. Her mother passed away her senior year before her finals. So she had many obstacles and she still managed to climb that ladder. So, I mean, this was also one of my favorite interviews as well. Very nerve-wracking. I came into her office and I was like, we want to interview you. And so that was great. I mean, I learned a lot from her. She very smart woman. Like I don't know what else to say. It was a great interview. I learned a lot. I was sweating by the end of the interview.
Yeah, no, it was definitely. She's a very sophisticated and funny woman. You know, she has a great character and sense of humor, and it shows that We were talking about Jordans, and I'm a big shoe guy. She's a big shoe person. So it was really cool to connect on that type of level, not just academics, not just professional, what we're doing after college, or how did you get to where you are today, but really on a personal level, understanding what type of designer she likes. It's always cool to talk about with people with that.
She's a sneakerhead, if you didn't know.
She is. She created her own shoes. So
Yeah, I've seen her rock.
ones.
I've seen her rocking those, and I'm always impressed by that. I think it's a great opportunity to sort of show the normal human aspect of her and her as a role. But also, I love the idea that she had that you need to have faith in yourself. Like a big part of exiting graduation is just having faith that you are capable, you are smart, you have actually learned things here over the past 4 years, even if it feels like maybe you haven't, because everyone has, no matter what you were doing, and you can apply these skills to do something.
Absolutely. Her mother told her before she passed, she said, stay in school. She never left. She's still in the school department, but stay in school and you will be set for life. And that's the same advice that she gave us.
It's true. If you stay determined with something, she proved that pretty well. If you stay determined with something for a short period of time, it'll show that throughout your whole life, and it will really take you long term. So I think that was she made that very important, and it was cool to see how she put into her perspective into her life as a teacher.
100%. Always a student of life. I love that stuff. I got one more clip today, and part of the reason I think that this is such a great show that you guys run is that you do speak to a lot of people, sort of the higher up big wigs here at IC. But you've also spoken to some people who are not in the administrative or the teaching realm here. So I wanted to pull up this interview, and I'll play a little bit of it, and then I'll turn it over to you guys again.
What's going on, boss? You want to do a quick interview real quick? Absolutely. Perfect. Come on, step on. What is going on, Bombers? I'm Ethan Kantor. And I'm Cisco Muriel. And now we're here from Streets of Advice. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with
AP McLean. So our first question for you today is, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self or somebody like us who's going to graduate very soon?
I would say, if I had to look back, the advice I'd give myself was to stay focused and follow your dreams, as far as like what you really want to do in life. And for the students today, don't lay everything on one basket. Be a jack or a Jacqueline of all trades and a master of none.
Can you elaborate? What does that mean to you?
So to me, that means if you're great at one thing and that thing falls through, then you have nothing else to fall back on. And if you are very good at multiple things, you have different avenues you can go down in life.
That is a great one. Did you always see yourself becoming an officer and maybe an officer at a school?
No, I originally wanted to go to school for sports medicine. Well, I went to school for sports medicine and recreation, ended up in law enforcement, but I wanted to be a firefighter. I had uncles growing up that were firefighters. I was always in the firehouse. My dad wanted me to go to school to teach so I could be a coach. And it's funny because I teach and coach now, but I didn't go to school for it. So I had to go like a different path to get to where I'm at. But yeah, I love being a campus police officer. We can police multiple areas around, but to have the interactions and relationships with students like I have with you guys and other students and coaching football here, for me, it's my passion.
Right.
It's the reason why I look forward to coming to work with you.
Snap.
Awesome. So obviously we're hearing some things that we've heard in these other interviews about sort of pivoting and nonlinearness, but I just want to hear a little bit about like what was it like how did you guys even approach this sort of interview?
So honestly, we've been close with him since freshman year. He's always helped us out and we've always helped him out. He's always been another friend on campus, same way how we go up to the professors and just have a normal conversation. That's kind of what we try to do here on Streets of Advice. And it's really what we tried portraying within this video. And honestly, we really just interviewed him to just kind of gain insight from somebody outside the classroom setting. It's all day. It's either professors or presidents or managers or this or that. But honestly, we just wanted to hear a little bit of the perspective of how he help us better understand how the school functions behind the scenes and the important roles that support the overall student experience at Ithaca College. And I think that was he plays a massive part here, and so does the law enforcement at Ithaca College. Keeping everybody safe. And I think it was cool to hear a little bit what he said. So
absolutely, KP is loved by everybody since freshman year, not only by us. I think he is the students' favorite campo. He's always interacting with students, with faculty, so he has a lot of experience in the school. So we figured that he would be someone good to interview, absolutely. And he says something very different from other teachers: is balancing. He has a different life other than working as an officer in the school. He's also a coach at basketball, and he also has a wonderful kid and So we're trying to see how you can balance that. And that's something that not many teachers spoke about. So I'm very happy we got to interview him.
It's true. You know, you always hear work-life balance, but you never really understand how it plays a part when you have a kid and you have a child and you have a wife and you have a job and you have, you know, when you have all those things, you forget about your own life. That's the most important thing, is just being able to feel yourself and understand yourself. And I think that's he made that pretty clear, that you need to understand the balance, and that was pretty cool to see. So
Absolutely, yeah. Like obviously you should be passionate about the work you're doing for your career, but it's also perfectly normal to have passions outside of your career that sustain you and help you feel like, okay, I'm a person outside of this job that I do. And I think,
100%.
yeah, he totally emphasized that in a really fantastic way.
100%. You know, Malcolm, now I have a question for you. We're going to flip this around a little bit. If you were somebody with us, with Streets of Advice, what would be the number one question you would ask? The first question that comes to your head. You know, for Cisco, it might be, what is your favorite quote or your quote of the day? For me, it might be, if you were 21 years old, about to graduate college, what would you do to navigate into the specific career that you are in today? So what would be your question?
That is, man, what a great question about questions. My question would probably be, what is one challenge that you faced in your career and how did you surmount it? How did you get over that? What happened there? I feel like you can learn so much from hearing about hard times and mistakes. Honestly, maybe more than you can learn from hearing about really great successes sometimes. So I think hearing from people who have made mistakes or have just been faced by bad circumstances,
Adversity, for sure.
were able to get over it. Like, yeah,
For
so that
sure.
would be mine for sure.
It's a good question. It's a good question. You know, it's always as a mentor, if you're having a mentor, it's always cool to see how their experiences, their successes, and their failures, so you don't make the same mistakes they did. So you're more successful than they ever will be. So it's kind of cool. You know, it's a key definition of mentorship, and it's pretty important here. So
100%. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Cisco and Ethan, for joining me today, taking some time out of your day. I know you guys are probably incredibly busy. So thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to speak with us. And yeah, everyone go check out Streets of Advice on Instagram. Great stuff going on over there.
thank you. Well, we appreciate it.
Bigger things coming up.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
Malcolm, it was a pleasure. We were
Thank you so
both
much,
honored to be hosted on the Career Corner podcast, and I hope everybody has a good rest of your day. This is Ethan Cantor.
This
Streets
is
of Advice.
Streets of Advice out.
I mean,
I love it. Thanks, y'all. And thank you for listening. We will be back with a new episode very, very soon.
Stay tuned.